Hi everyone, I'm Celeste. Welcome to my booktube channel, A Reader's Almanac with Celeste. And recently in a video I shared with you that I had started reading Alexandre Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo, and I have continued to read it. I am really loving it. I am now on chapter 31. And I'm on page 300, so I still have quite a bit to go. This book is over 1,200 pages in the unabridged edition, but just really loving it. I realized that in my last video I didn't actually even discuss what the story is about. Many of you may already know it, but basically Edmund Dantes is a young, handsome sailor. He's in love with his fiancée, Mercedes. They're going to get married. He's like 19 years old, and he's just been promoted to become captain of a ship called the Pharaon. He becomes the victim of three conniving men who are very bitter and jealous of him, and all have their own reasons for wanting to see him fail and bring him down. So they decide to frame him for something he didn't do. They form a conspiracy about him in relation to Napoleon Bonaparte. They accuse him actually of colluding with the then exiled Napoleon, who's been sent to the island of Elba. Because the powers that be have aspirations of gaining more power and becoming great leaders, they trump up charges against Edmund Dantes, and he is sent to the Chateau d'If. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I'm not making anyone cringe with my bad French. But he ends up being a prisoner there for years. And then he meets a fellow prisoner who tells him about a treasure on the Isle of Monte Cristo and how part of it can be his. And things go on from there. I don't want to spoil the whole plot. I'm just really giving you the premise. But things go well beyond that. And I'm just so enjoying it. It was originally published in serial form, and the way it's written is really like a cliffhanger. And this was published in installments in a literary journal of the time. And so it really has that suspenseful cliffhanger quality. It's got swashbuckling, it's got pirates, it's got treasures on uninhabited islands, it's got intrigues and spies, it's got trying to bring someone down, jealousies, revenge, romance, just everything that you could possibly hope for in an adventure novel. And it's just so wonderful. And it's also so refreshing. You know, I get into such a English and American bubble that it is just so refreshing to kind of move a little bit away from that and read other literature that was written in the 1800s, and it's just phenomenal so far. It's so bittersweet, so beautifully written. It's about perseverance, resilience, justice, identity, all of that. Because during this, Edmund Dantes takes on different personas and different identities, so it's about who he really is. So his ability to endure years of imprisonment and what happens after that just have me hooked, and I'm so enjoying it. So that is Alexandre Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo. And then I just wanted to talk a little more broadly about Alexandre Dumas in general and French literature and what some of my goals are for 2025 and onward. So one of my dearest memories from high school is one summer when I was in high school. Of course, I was living with my parents. It was a very hot summer. It was June. And my parents, on the shelf of our living room, we called it the den, but it was a living room. And up on a shelf in my family's den was the entire collected works of Alexandre Dumas. And they were in this beautiful sort of gray-green binding, like a cloth binding, and they had the most beautiful antique fonts, and they had all of these lovely old-fashioned antique engravings in them with illustrated scenes from the works. And they were limited editions. I think they were published maybe in 1910, and they were just beautiful. They were gorgeous. And I decided one day when I was bored in the summer, I took down one of the books and started to read it. And that was actually The Three Guardsmen, or what's also known as The Three Musketeers. And I started to read that, and I was absolutely enchanted. I was transported away. Oh my goodness. I know that, and I also read The Count of Monte Cristo. And I remember, because we had air conditioning and because it was like 95 and very humid outside, I remember I pretended that I was in the dungeon of Chateau d'If, and yeah, and the walls were sort of cold and clammy, and I was pretending I was there and trying to escape. And just having a book that is so marvelous and captivating on a hot summer day when you're in someplace cool with a nice cool drink is just one of the best things in life, isn't it? And I was just captivated by Alexandre Dumas. And so I read The Count of Monte Cristo, and then I also read The Three Guardsmen. And then I had a friend named Mary. She was a good friend of mine, and I got her interested in reading these books as well. And she actually went on to read the entire series of all the books Dumas wrote. And she had me beat in that department. She read more than I did. But that was really the reading memory from my youth that ignited my love of Dumas and other French literature. But I haven't explored an awful lot of French literature, so I think this is the year that I would like to do that. So what I've done here is prepared a little pile of possibilities that I'd like to share with you. I don't necessarily know a lot about them, but they are books that I would like to explore and learn more about and read and share with you over the next time period. So, as I said, I'm in the middle of The Count of Monte Cristo, and that is wonderful. And then, as you can see here, I do also have Alexandre Dumas' The Three Musketeers, which I also love. Very different character to this book than The Count of Monte Cristo, but I just absolutely ate this up when I was younger. So I'm looking forward to reading it again. And yeah, and this is the Richard Pevere translation. And then I also got this copy of Alexandre Dumas' The Man in the Iron Mask. This was another favorite of mine. I love this story. This made such a huge impression on me. And yeah, so this is another Musketeer story. And I am so looking forward to a reread of this as well. I did also order a copy of Dumas' The Black Tulip. And so yeah, so that's the Dumas that I am looking forward to reading. And then additionally, I did also pick up this lovely copy of Phantom of the Opera by Gaston LeRoux. And these are illustrations by Greg Hildebrandt. And I so love this copy of Phantom of the Opera. This is put out by Unicorn Books. And I just have to show you some of this because it's just outstanding. Look at the mask on the back there. Isn't it lovely? And the end papers. I really want to get some more of the Unicorn classics. They have like Little Unicorn, which are for younger readers, and then they have them for older readers. So look at the front page here. Very theatrically done in an Art Nouveau style, and with an introduction by Sarah Brightman and Greg Hildebrand. And Sarah Brightman, of course, was in the stage version of The Phantom by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And then here's another front page. Is that not beautiful? I love the attention to detail. Look at the ticket here. And I'll just show you maybe one other illustration. Let's see. There's a couple of black and white ones, and then there are some color ones. This is wonderful. And I did finish this, and I must say that I love the idea of the Phantom of the Opera and the basic story more than I loved the actual execution by Gaston LeRoux. It could be a fault of whatever translation this is, but I love that it's based on a true story or true theater and a ghost that was supposed to haunt it. It involves really stunning things like, a falling chandelier and a man who is living in the bowels of the theater underground and has his caverns down there, and a boat that crosses, and a candelabra that he carries when he's going through in the boat. And all of that is just so evocative, and I'm looking forward to watching the film version of The Phantom. It was a huge, huge deal when I was living up in Toronto in the 1980s. I remember that so well. The Phantom was just everywhere in Toronto. But anyway, the actual story I don't love as much as the idea of the story and everything surrounding the story. I love the set design for the story. I love all of that. I love the time period it's set in. I love the basic characters, but the way the story is actually told, the actual specific prose style of Gaston LeRoux, at least as is evidenced in this copy, I found a bit boring. And it didn't do justice to the excitement of the story he was telling, if that makes sense. So I wish someone would retell it, and maybe Andrew Lloyd Webber did that. I know Andrew Lloyd Webber focused much more on the romance side of things and developed that story. So some of what is in the play is not in here, or in the musical rather, is not in the original story. But you can't study French literature without trying Phantom of the Opera, and this is a beautiful, beautiful edition, and I'm looking forward to collecting more titles from Unicorn. You can find them used on places like eBay. Now, in 2024, I don't think I ever reviewed it on one of my videos, but I did read The Lady's Paradise by Emile Zola. And this is a translation by Brian Nelson. It's one of the Oxford World Classics. I really enjoyed this for the most part. The story is an interesting story. It's originally known as Au Bonjour des Dames. I don't know if that's correct. So The Lady's Paradise is about a young woman named Denise Badu. Because of her family's misfortune and financial hard time, she is forced to come work, find a job. And so she comes to live with her uncle, and she ends up working at a large upcoming department store, which is trying to replace the small independent shops which before now have been the go-to for women's fashions, for fabric, for house furnishings, all of that. And now there's this department store which is supposed to cater to any purchasing fantasy a woman might have. They've got everything. If you've ever watched Selfridges, you'll get the idea. It's kind of like that, except it's in France. And so it's about the modern department store in the late 19th century. And so it's about modernization, it's about capitalism. The thing I love about this are Emile Zola's descriptions. When the sun is setting and the shadows are filling the streets. I also love the way he has his reader view, how do I put it? The kind of like the liminal spaces, the alleyways, the parts that you don't often hear spoken about, like, a cracked area of a cornerstone on a sidewalk, a pigeon that comes down near someone's feet, a view into an alleyway where there's poverty and poor people. The drastic contrast in shadows and light between the poor, impoverished independent shops of the old regime versus the up-and-coming modern capitalist department store with its big windows and bright lights and window dressings and so on. So yeah, and we follow Denise Badu. It's also about the commodification of women, about being an object. There's so much going on in here that I can't really do it justice in a like survey of French literature or what I want to read in French literature, but I did enjoy this. I will say that about 2/3 of the way through I felt it dragged a bit, and I did skip a little bit and move on till the end. But that being said, I really appreciated Emile Zola's descriptions. Enough so that later this year, probably June, I would like to read Therese Raquin by Emile Zola. And I've got this lovely copy here, and I've already actually purchased it on Audible. And it's actually narrated by the actress Kate Winslet, and it just sounds marvelous, and it's gotten rave reviews as a wonderful rendition of Therese Raquin. And it's not very long. It looks like something you could read within a week fairly easily. This is also from Oxford University Press. And this is sort of a scandalous story, and it's also in 19th century Paris. I'm just looking at the blurb on the back here, but it's about adultery and murder and another woman. But again, when I read the opening to this, I was captivated. And I'll just see if I can find it here so that I can read you just the first sentence or so. At the end of the Rue, I can't pronounce it. Coming up from the river can be found the Passage du Pont Neuf, a sort of dark, narrow corridor running between the Rue Mazarine and the Rue de Seine. This arcade is some 30 paces long and no more than 2 wide. It is paved with yellowish flagstones, worn, uneven, permanently exuding an acrid-smelling damp, and is covered by a right-angled glass roof black with grime. Just the way he describes everyday things and parts of streets and architecture and umbrellas and sunlight and, the character that takes on. It's like the sense of place becomes a character. And so that's what really attracts me about Emile Zola's writing. So I'm looking forward to that one. And I should say, if anyone is interested in a buddy read or wants to read any of these with me or has other suggestions for me, I would love to hear about those in the comments below, or of course, you can contact me as well. I would also like to read this, which I've had from Chiltern Classics, and I've owned this one for a while. It's Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. There are lots of mixed reactions to this. Some people love it, some people hate it, but I mean, this is total cover buy. It's one of the beautiful Chiltern editions. I just couldn't resist, so I got that one. And then I also have the play Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmund Rostand, and I bought this one quite a while ago. I read this when I was a little girl, believe it or not. I used to go to the library and get dropped off, and I would just randomly pick something I had never heard of before from the shelves. And one time it was Cyrano de Bergerac, and I loved it. And I just love the character, and I'm looking forward to a reread of this. And then as well in the Oxford series, I have the Scarlet Pimpernel. So I am looking forward to reading that. Look at this cover. We seek him here, we seek him there. Those Frenchies seek him everywhere. Is he in heaven? Is he in hell? The damned defiant Pimpernel. And this is about Sir Percy Blakeney, who lives a double life in the England of 1792. At home, he's an idle fop and leader of fashion, but abroad, he is the Scarlet Pimpernel, a master of disguise who saves aristocrats from the guillotine. And then I also would like to read some Colette. I have never read anything by Colette, so if anyone has any suggestions. I was thinking of Gigi, but if you can think of some other suggestions, that would be wonderful. I would like to read some of the short stories of Guy de Maupassant. I, of course, have read The Necklace, and we'll talk more about that in another video on short stories. But I would like to read some of his other short stories as well. And then additionally, I would like to read Bonjour, Tristesse, which is by Françoise Sagan. And this one was, I don't know much about it. I think the author, a woman, she was 18 when she wrote this, and it became like an overnight sensation. And this is kind of a scandalous book as well, and I think it translates to Hello Sadness. And I think it's about a girl who lives with her father, who, I don't know if he's a gigolo, but he's dating several women, and it's like a coming-of-age story. And it was supposed to be very scandalous at the time, so we will see about that. And then I'm just looking at my list here. Oh, of course, I have to read some French poetry. I need to read some other plays. Please give me some suggestions for those. And then I also need some modern and contemporary recommendations. And I will be doing actually a whole separate video on my collection. I collect books on French history and music and culture and cooking. So I will do those in a separate video another day because this is getting very long. But basically what I'm sharing is my excitement of French literature and my desire to read more of it, and an invitation for anyone who would like to read any of it along with me. And like I said, I'm looking to break away a little bit, reading literature from another country in the 1800s, because I read so much English and American literature. So I'm really looking forward to doing all of that. I'm going to be reading some more short stories. I will be checking back in with you throughout the course of the year and updating what I've accomplished with my reading goals. I will be honest, I think I am more interested in reading a lot more Alexandre Dumas than in reading other authors, because I love Dumas, but I'm going to keep an open mind and try to include some of these other classics as well. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me and to the end here. Please give me your suggestions in the comments below, and we will see you again real soon. Au revoir.